All right, Gary, you have the floor.
Thank you. Okay, my name is Gary Wombough. I work for SP Products. I'm the regional manager for the East. I basically handle everywhere up to Canada, all the way down to Florida, over to Mississippi, up to Indiana and Ohio. I basically handle the agents. I also make a lot of contractor calls directly myself, and also with our agents, and basically help them understand our products and understand the philosophy behind our products. And one of the things, just to let you know, we've been in business since 1966. We're owned by a single owner. His name's Peter Vrain. He's 89 years old. He still works at the company just about every other day. And he's very involved in our patent process and new products. Peter's visionary for the company was to do things safer, better, and faster. And one of the things back in 1966, when we go into our web site, spproducts.com, you'll notice that the site opens up to a very large page, and you can actually use your toolbar at the bottom to scroll over to the right-hand side of the page also, because there's more stuff on the right-hand side. And what I want to do today is just basically go through some of the products that are big movers and sellers. And all the products that you're going to see today are basically engineered and designed by electricians in the field. And what happens is we get these ideas from those guys. We ask them to write up a non-disclosure agreement. They sign off on it. We sign off on it. Then we help develop the patent. We usually pay for it all, anywhere between 60 and 80 grand for a U.S. patent, all the way up to $200,000 if it's a worldwide patent. And then we'll take it to UL, and we process it through UL to get a UL designation listing on it. Now, there's some products on here, as I'll go through, UL didn't have a UL designation or listing when we started the process with them, and we actually developed one. All of our stuff is made in America with domestic grade steel. And that's one of the things about Peter. He never wanted to offshore our products. He always wanted to keep them here in the United States. And basically, he feels as an elder statesman, he wants to pass along good paying jobs to the American citizens here and keep that domestic steel being used here in the United States. Now, he could have made a lot more money by offshoring, because some of our products you'll see are stamped steel products. But he's emphatic. He made us all basically sign an agreement, say that we will not offshore his product and we will keep it here in the United States. So as you see on our website, SP1-1 and 2 is our visionary or mission statement and history. Goes through a little bit about, what we've done over the years, and some of the analogy of the 5 points. I'll let you read them when you want. But the first thing Peter started out with years ago, back in '66, he made the Econo whips. He actually made his own greenfield machines. And basically, they produced these, like 3 or 4 of them. He had a gentleman that was a really smart engineer. So they would actually make greenfield. They would stuff it with wire. They would then put connectors on both ends, and they would even sometimes label the wire if necessary. And then they would group the wire in either 6, 8, 10-foot lengths, bundle them up in groups of 10, put them in 55-gallon drums, and then ship them to contractors all over the United States. And Peter was the inventor of the wire whip back then for contractors, but he couldn't get a patent on it because of the way the structure of the patent office worked at the time. He tried numerous times, but he couldn't do it. So that was one of his first products. And back then in the early 70s, Peter was one of the first ones that did prefab. So we would take a box, a receptacle, put it all together with a wire whip, and then he would put a UL label on it, and he would ship it to contractors all over the United States already pre-assembled. So basically, they would open up a crate or a large Gaylord box and then just be able to install the product right in the wall, because everything basically would be done for them. As you see there in the listing, it shows all the different people and the players at the company. From any time you want a quote, you always send a quote to info@spproducts.com, and then we'll have somebody respond back to you. That email address gets looked at by numerous people in the company. There's a guy that looks at it from a prefab standpoint. If you're asking for a quick duck product where we're going to need to make drawings and templates, that will be handled by Michael Bishka and Tom. And then we have a number of people that look at it from, if you're requesting literature or you're requesting certificates of compliance, certificates of origin, anything like that, and then technical things. I'm always available for technical support. Just to give you a little background on myself, I was in the field for many years. I started out in Philadelphia. I worked my way up as an apprentice into general superintendent. So I've handled some very large jobs in the Philadelphia area and ran many men doing large office buildings downtown Philadelphia. So when we come, and in my counterpart on the West Coast and the Midwest, we're all electricians. So we understand the philosophy of how to install product, and then basically looking at it from a labor unit standpoint. A labor unit is the cost of labor for the contractor to physically install whatever product he's buying. And it doesn't really matter when you look at material costs, it's the cost of total install. So if you had a product that's going to save you 6-7 minutes every time you install it by using an SP product, and you're at $89 an hour, that's substantial savings. So when you're talking 25, 50 cents or whatever it might be in the difference of my product compared to a competitor's product, again, we're going to show you those labor unit savings. And that's what contractors are really driving for today. You know, if you said, and you walked into a union contractor years ago and you said, I'm here to show you some labor unit savings, they would escort you out the door. Everybody today is looking for labor unit savings. And that's how you talk to contractors, because that's going to key them in and differentiate yourself compared to some other salesperson. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is what we started out with years ago, is what we call our wire assemblies and easy pull. Now, we make a number of different products. We have 4 machines at our factory that where we actually produce and we put a labeling on each wire, every half inch up to 24 characters through the entire length of the wire. And then we'll bundle that wire together for home run pulls. And this is something that a lot of contractors utilize themselves, and they have usually some apprentice and other people in their shop making wire harnesses for easy pulls, but we do it for you. We use a domestic grade wire that's made out of the Chicago area. Our office is in Elk Grove Village, which is in Illinois, just a little south of Chicago, right near O'Hare Airport. We've been there since 1966, and our factory that's where we produce most of the product. In turn, when we do these wire pulls, you'll notice in the section of the sheet there, we actually understand that we have to basically take that reel, we tape up the sides of it so it doesn't scuff any of the THHN or any of the type of wire that you're pulling. And it's very important to also remember, since we label the entire wire, the entire length, we don't do it like some other manufacturers where they only put the labeling at each end of the wire. So if God forbid that wire was cut, you wouldn't know which one it was. So you'd have to actually do some dead end tracing to figure it out. But again, we'll do any type of bundling that you want. In our catalog pages here, we'll show a lot of the typical home run pulls we'll do. And then the other thing is, when we put it all together, it's a wire assembly. So we put a UL sticker on it as an assembly. We are a UL shop. UL comes into our office unannounced regularly, maybe once every other month on average, and they check all the things that we're producing that day to make sure that we're staying within standards of UL. And that's one big thing with Peter Vrame and all of our folks. We're very quality controlled oriented, because we understand once it gets out to the job site, we don't want to have any issues or any liability. And that's important. Especially in today's day and age when the cost of labor is so high and you have to get things done at a certain time based upon your contracts with your end users. So that's basically some of our easy pull. Again, if you need a quote, you just send it to info@spproducts.com. Somebody there will take a look at your quote, and then we'll be able to get back to you in pretty quick time. Most things we get back to you within 24 hours, sometimes same day. but sometimes we have to put an assembly together. We have to design some prints. So it takes a little bit longer for us to get a quote. And we might have to ask some additional questions based upon what you're asking us to do. And again, we'll do a lot of things that are custom for contractors. Again, we'll do even armored clad cable, and we'll stuff all kinds of wires into it. As you notice in the center of the screen here, we have what we call trees. We do a lot of that type of harnessing where you do break-offs where it's going through conduit, and then you want to basically be able to branch out on a pull. Makes it very easy for the contractor. Done a lot of jobs in airport conveyor systems, prison systems on the doors and interlock systems like that. We also do a lot of low voltage, and we've been doing a lot for the casinos of bundling cables for all the gaming industry, the slot machines and all that kind of stuff. So we'll put it all together and label it however that customer wants. And then basically we also hot pot test it from one end to the other, so we know there's no pin pricks or anything in that's going to integrate the THHN or the type of insulation on the wire. The next thing I want to go to is what we call our quick duct. And basically we have the catalog laid out is in color format. And this will be the blue section of our catalog. And at the top of each one of our catalogs are about no more than 4 inches wide, and they fit in your back pocket. And at the very top, there'll be a circle in black with a number on it. And right now we're on catalog 12. And we usually update the catalog once about every 6 months on average, just because of the fact we're constantly putting new product into the catalog. So the way I usually do a pitch when I go into a contractor, I talk to them exactly how they're going to basically build the building. And the first thing you're going to do is your excavation. And you're going to have to run pipe, and most of the time through a trench. Most trenches, for a number of years, we used what we called chairs and spacers. Chairs and spacers are basically just a piece of plastic that will let you put the pipe through, and it separates the pipe to keep it a certain distance by code and by UL in the ditch. Now, some utilities do not have any standards for what goes in the ditch. You could throw it in any way you want as long as it's encapsulated in pipe. But most utilities now have standards, and most local jurisdictions have codes to tell you what the separations should be. So when we get an opportunity, our product is we build it outside of the trench. And if you'll notice here on this first page, you'll see a couple pictures over to your left here that I've got my cursor going to, and that's a trench right there. And we're putting in, excuse me, numerous pieces of pipe into that trench. Well, we build the quick duct outside of the trench. Now, most people using chairs and spacers, they're going to be sitting in the ditch. They're going to put these pieces of plastic together, clip them together, and then they use a lot of tie wire to tie wire them all together so they don't collapse. The problem with that is over 100 electricians every year die in a ditch because the ditch capsizes on top of them. So a lot of times now the contractors have to shore up the ditches with metal stanchions. That means your ditch has to be a lot wider than the product you're putting into it. With our product, since we build it outside the ditch, they're basically made out of HDPE recycled plastic. So it is a green friendly environment type product. We route the holes out based upon the size of the pipe and what's going in the ditch, and then we space it accordingly by UL listing and also the National Electrical Code. Most of the time, you need at least 1.5 inches per pipe spacing. Now, a lot of times a guy will say, hey, I'm putting 8 pieces of 4-inch Schedule 40 PVC in a ditch. What do you got? Well, we would make him basically a product that would be custom. For each template is custom made. We basically make it, and you tell us how many, on what foot centers you want to run them to support the pipe. And usually it has to be every 5 feet by code. You're going to put one of these plates on there. Now, sometimes in DOD work and federal work or state work, they require them a little closer together to support the pipe. So they want them every 4 feet or every 3 feet. Now, we can elongate the holes a little bit to make it a little bit of play. So if you need to ease it around a manhole cover, or you've got existing duct that's sitting in a ditch that you're burying it next to, and you need to run it, we can do those things for you. So each template is custom made. So what we do is when we tell us what's in a ditch, we're going to provide you back a CAD drawing. It's in a PDF format, and it's going to show the exact template and how it's laid out. And we're also at the same time going to give you all the documentation as a submittal package for the general contractor that's going to show the UL listing for each one of these. And we actually emboss UL label on every quick duct template we make. We're the only one in the world that has a UL label on our product. So that's very beneficial to contractors. It's also very beneficial to any federal or state work because they like to see something that's UL listed. Now, when we started this product years ago, there was no UL listing for quick duct at all in a trench. Peter worked for almost 13 years with UL to get the classification. And again, we're the only one in the world that has UL on it. You will find other plastic manufacturers doing quick duct out there, but they typically use a thinner grade plastic than we do. We use 3/8. We also make it in 1/2 inch if you need to. But most of the time, 3/8 works on just about 98% of your applications. And again, it's HDPE recycled plastic. It's going to be rated for 4,000 PSI pounds. It's never going to degrade inside the ditch. And we'll also give you rebar holes because you're going to build a cage around the pipe. And as you notice in the center of the section here with that picture, we give you slots. And those orange rebars are for it to tie it down inside the ditch. So when you start pulling your aggregate back into the ditch, concrete, it doesn't float inside the ditch. So you pound those orange rods down through that slot into the side of the trench, and then it keeps it from floating. The rebar is built as a cage because you never use our quick duct to actually lift the pipe. You always use nylon straps around the pipe, and you can lift it up at that point. Now, our product, again, when you start talking to a contractor and we start talking about labor units, a typical contractor will quote on a labor unit job, he's looking at man hour per linear feet. So if he's doing a 4-inch schedule 40, he might be able to do anywhere between 35 and 60 linear feet per man hour in a ditch with 4-inch schedule 40. My product, he could do over 300 feet per man hour. There's no way a guy can basically beat us when it comes to the total cost of install using chairs and spacers. And I'll give you an analogy. Every one of my customers that have tried this product once have standardized on using our quick duct just because of the amount of labor that they save using this product. And again, because it's UL listed. If you go here, and I'll bring it back here, on our website, and I'll let you do this after we're done the call, we have 3 buttons over here to the left. Those 3 buttons are videos. One of the videos is an animation video. When I first came on with Peter in 2017, I told him, Peter, I said, you need to have a video to show the contractor how this physically goes together outside of the ditch. So we developed an animation video to show you that. And then we got 2 testimonials. One of them in there, the contractor's running 16 6-inch pieces of pipe, and he's running it for almost 400 feet from manhole cover to manhole cover. He quoted the job at roughly $2.2 million, and we saved him $800,000 in labor on one job alone. So I have customers, and I'll give you an example. You're down in the Alabama area, check with Jesse Stutz. I went down there, did a meeting with those guys, showed the product. They started using it. They will not go back to chairs and spacers. We get every order, whatever they do in a ditch, it comes through SP Products because they know they can run a heck of a lot of pipe in a ditch and save a lot of labor units by using our product, and it makes it very easy. The other thing is, because we're not using a metal stanchion and we're not living in that ditch like with chairs and spacers, my template could be just a little bit smaller of a bucket width of an excavator. So if it's a 24-inch bucket or a 48-inch bucket or a 36, make the template just a little bit smaller than that, and now he could do one scoop of excavation. He's not only going to save on that, he's going to save more importantly when he goes to backfill it with concrete. We saved a ton of money on that FBI facility. They had actual people coming, and the general contractor was asking Jesse Stutz and his guys there, hey, how come you guys are buying so much concrete and laying so much pipe so fast? We've never seen a contractor lay that much PVC in the ground that quick. He said it's because of this SP products and their quick duct. It's a great product, and we save a ton of labor units. And again, they were putting everything together at their shop, and they were using 20-foot pieces of PVC, mounting these on every 5-foot centers, building a rebar cage, lifting it up, put it on the back of a flatbed truck, rolling it out to the FBI facility, setting it on the ground next to the ditch, pounding it together, and using multiple pieces of equipment to lift it up and lower it in the ditch. Worked very, very easy. So again, you'll see that some of the questions here on IP2, we ask a series of 7 questions of what's physically going in the ditch. The contractor answers those questions, and then we develop this template for them. We route it out. We also, if he tells us he's got slurry or concrete going in there, we put the flow holes. The flow holes are important because the concrete has to flow in between each template so there's no gaps. So sometimes those holes could be smaller. Sometimes we make them a lot larger depending on the type of slurry and aggregate they're putting back in the ditch. And again, we'll give you rebar holes on each corner, and then we'll also give you the down slots to pound rebar in. Now, we have contractors that think they're slick, and they go out and they try to buy some plastic themselves, and they try to start routing this stuff out themselves manually. It's very difficult. We have custom-made machines to route this stuff out. It's very quick for us. If you give us these 7 answers on these questions, we typically will send you back a PDF format and all the submittal documentation, typically within about 48 hours max. And then it usually only takes us right now 2 to 3 to 4 days to manufacture and ship. So we're talking basically like a week turnaround time from the time you give us the information to the time it's shipping. The other thing is, if the customer says to us, hey, it's a big job, and there's some of them that we'll get 50, 60 different types of templates for the same job, all different configurations, different styles of pipe, holes in it to run ground cable through it, holes in it to run datacom cables through it, or interduct cables. We do all that kind of stuff. So again, from the turnaround time, we're very quick. We're faster than anybody out there when it comes to routing plastic. And then the other thing is, since we do all this and we have CAD drawings, we want the contractor to sign the drawings as their approval, because once we start cutting plastic, it's non-cancelable, non-returnable. And again, we only sell through distribution. So distributors like Graybar, Rexel, Wesco, and all the big boys, they typically will get the prints back from the contractor signed. They'll forward them to us with a PO, and then we start routing plastic for them. And if you tell me, hey, Garrett, I got a job starting Monday of next week, can you get out 50 templates for me right away so that we can at least start the excavation? No problem. Let us know. We'll adjust our production line, and we'll get some product put in front for you and get it shipped. Now, we also make a series that's round, as you see over here to the right. Now, the round style is basically brand new, or what we call virgin plastic. The reason being is we put wheels all the way around that. Right now, we're doing some with 360-degree wheels all the way around it. And what that's for is caisson and borement. So basically, you'll have 2 buildings going up. They'll put a cement tube between one building and the other, and they will run this quick duct with the rollers through that concrete opening from one building to the other to run the utilities. It makes it very easy. A lot of airport runway jobs use this type of product. So we'll lay it out again. We'll put the holes in there. We'll space them accordingly by code. You slide them through with your pipe. You put it all together, and then you roll that thing right into a cement caisson. Makes it very easy. The reason why we had to use virgin plastic is because when we mount those wheels, it would be brittle for HDP. Sometimes it would crack off. So with the virgin plastic, it gives more bend and tolerance. But again, we sell a bunch of these to anybody doing directional boring. It makes it really easy for them. And again, it's UL listed. So the other thing that we started with this product was we said, okay, so we're coming through into a manhole cover, or we're coming into a vault or a cavity inside a building. And most of the time now, from the standpoint, you have to terminate or bring your cables into something. So what we developed was an end bell. And this is our PVC end bell adapter. We sell a ton of them. Now, the one thing we do a little differently on our end bells, we actually use reamer bits. The reamer bit will ream out the interior portion of a piece of PVC, and then with our product, we replace that with a honed piece that goes inside that piece of PVC. And you'll see the picture up here on your right in blue. And that piece right there is the home piece that replaces what we drilled out with the reamer bit. It makes it very nice and easy. It makes it very easy for them to pull wire right into the cavity. It's very smooth, so you're not going to get it hung up on anything there, and you're not going to have any problems with your installation coming into the job. Now, we know, I'll give you an example. We've done many data centers across the United States with this product, and we sell a ton of them. Because when they're coming up into those server cavities with my product, if you were using others, you might have, especially if it's any metal product, you're going to have to use bonding and grounding issues when you pull that cable into the equipment. With ours, you can pull cable directly into the equipment and it has no issues at all because everything's PVC. Saves them a ton of money. A regular data center job could easily use $1 million or more of these end bells plus our transition coupling line. And I'm going to show you that in a minute. And here's our reamer bit. We have a page just specifically for reamer bits. We make a reamer bit for Schedule 40 and one for Schedule 80. The reamer bit is made out of one-piece machine tool steel. So these things are not cheap. A 3/4 inch will cost you about $225. A 4-inch costs you over $800. But it's going to save you a ton of labor units every time you're transitioning through the slab, or what us electricians call the housekeeping pad. And that's usually coming up into your switchgear lineup, your panel board, your double eye switches, your gear, all those kind of things. This bit will cut thousands and thousands of pieces of PVC because it's only PVC. This thing's machine tool steel. It's hardened. It has no problem with going through this stuff like butter. And we have fins on it, so it will stop it from only going in a certain depth inside the PVC. And a lot of people ask, oh, well, what happens to the plastic? Well, when you start spinning that, the plastic gets pushed out at the top of the pipe, and it comes out like a little squiggly piggly tail, and they just come out in pieces. So it never falls back into the pipe. But again, if you have any problems with, when you break off a piece of pipe and you need to fix it, these reamer bits work very well for that application. I'm going to show you now what we utilize for that. So again, I'm still working and I'm building the building. I'm coming through my housekeeping pad and I'm wondering, okay, now I got to transition up. So when we call transition, the transition typically is coming through the slab, and now I got to convert it to another type of conduit. So what we do, we develop these transition couplings, and when we first started out, we basically had a PVC to EMT and a PVC to rigid and PVC to PVC. That was our biggest movers initially. And the reason being is when you come through that slab, most people are going to a metal product. The reason being, most of your local codes say that you need to have a 2-hour fire burn rating above slab. So that means most of the product has to be either fiberglass or metal to meet those requirements for fire and code. So what we did, we developed this UL rated assembly. We recently got the patent on this as a utility patent. So it's almost going to be about 17 years before any other manufacturer can make anything like this. Okay. Now, if you've got customers that got stub ups coming through that concrete and say a genie boom hit them from the HVAC guy and they broke pipes off, What do they have to do? They've got to notch the concrete. And I'll give you an instance. If you go into any contractor and they do commercial work and you ask them, have you ever notched concrete because of a broken pipe? Most of them will tell you, yeah, I'm doing it right now. Well, here's a product that could save them a ton of labor units every time they're transitioning through the slab and to fix a broken pipe. And once they start using these, it's not really the cost of the fitting itself. It's how much labor units they're saving by not having to notch concrete. And I know as an electrician, I didn't want to be a mason. I didn't want to have to notch concrete. And now with the new laws for silica, anytime you start drilling in concrete, chipping concrete, hammer drilling concrete, any type of jackhammer, you've got to be masked up, all the other stuff, the PPE equipment, and you usually have to have vacuums to support you doing that silica and the dust. They put a lot of requirements on electricians for the silica part. So again, I'm going to save them a ton of money that they don't have to do any of that. They don't have to wear any PPE. All they do is take my reamer bit, ream it, and drop my product in place with some glue on it, and they're done. And it's a UL rated assembly. Also, the code says I can't Frankenstein something coming out of that slab. I can't take 2 or 3 parts and make something up that I think will work. The code is not allowing that. They're telling you that you have to use a UL rated assembly or some type of fiberglass or some other product to get through the slab. Well, when we first developed this, again, I was telling you we had 3 of the major products, but then we had customers ask us, hey, what about seal tight? Hey, what about compression? Hey, what about, a squeeze style for the aluminum flex or armored cable? So we started producing a lot more of these products. And again, we've developed this whole family now of transition couplings. And again, our end bells are there. We make a PVC with threads on it. We make a PVC that's aluminum, stainless steel. We're getting ready to make one that's going to be rated for corrosive environments like OCal or a PVC coating on the outside of a rigid conduit. There's other product out there now that they're using that also. We came up with one right here in the middle. This guy right here is a PVC internal, the PVC internal coupling. Now that saved the contractor about 58 grand worth of concrete work because our coupling goes in the middle, inside each piece of PVC, where a typically coupling has to slide out over the outside diameter of a piece of pipe, which means it increases the overall diameter. Imagine if you're coming through a wall and your pipe's cut right there at the wall. Now you got to notch every one of those pieces of PVC in a concrete and slide your coupling to get that OD over top so that you use that coupling. Then after you're done all that notching of concrete, you're going to send one of your apprentice out, or you're going to send one of your low-hanging fruit labor guys. He's going to go to Home Depot, Menards, or someplace, buy some Saccrete, a 50-pound bag or more. He's going to get a bucket and a trowel, and then he's going to be a mason for the day because he's got to basically fill in all that stuff of where he chipped it all out and make it look nice, not only for the building owner, but also the inspectors. Okay, so this little guy right here, it never exceeds the outside diameter of the pipe. As you see, there's a ring in the center, and those 2 pieces, after you ream both sides of the PVC, slides together, no notching of concrete. And that one contractor told us, hey, man, I'll show you the quote. You saved me 58 grand in mason work to not only chip it out, but then have to replace all that and thin coat everything after we would have had to put that outside diameter coupling on it. So again, makes it real easy. If you come to us and you have an idea and you tell us what you need, we're going to try to provide a solution for you for the application. And again, all of us in the company, we get together regularly on the telephone and we talk about new product. We talk about contractors having issues in the field and how we can address it as electricians to save them money. And again, it makes us differentiate ourselves from other manufacturers out there to show that we care and we're very quick in the turnaround time. On that PVC internal coupling, it only took us about 3 weeks to figure out what we could do for this guy, put it all together, and have UL shipped product on site so that he would be able to use it. So again, we basically have quick turnaround time when it comes to this stuff. And again, we'll have a separate sheet for each one of the different ones. And let me just show you, when we go into the fitting, we'll go PVC to EMT, which is a real popular one. So what I do is when I open this sheet up, for a second here, page ain't building, but at the, I don't know if my internet's slow here or something didn't pop up. All right. All right, so here's the page. Right down here at the bottom, it says click here for printable PDF. That's where you would click that button, and then you could right click that page that pops up and then save that document. So then you could save that PDF, put it in an email, and send it to your contractors. That's how I send a lot of my information to contractors so they can physically see the product without having to going through the entire website to look for everything. And again, this would be all his engineering information that he would need. We even sell these little orange caps that they could put down on their stubs so no crap falls in the pipe while it's sticking up out of the floor before they transition. We also give you a little hole in that tab so they can actually put a pull rope on there, or they can label it. They can also label across the front of it. And this little orange cap will handle multiple size pieces of pipe, and you just slap it in the top of your pipe and it keeps everything nice and clean. And again, it shows you all the different sizes. It shows you the step and the procedures for how to install them. And again, we sell a ton of them. And again, once I show this to a contractor, he's never going back to notching concrete again, because he knows it's a waste of his time. It's a waste of labor units. And to be honest with you, it's not the electricians breaking the pipe off at the floor. It's the HVAC guys. And they will never fess up that they did it. But on any contractor project site, the HVAC guys come in with their genie booms and they just start driving those things around. They don't look down on the ground or where your stub ups are. They run them over. And next thing you know, you come in the next day and you could have 35, 40 pieces of pipe broken off in one big project. And now you got to send, you know, your young apprentice over there to start notching concrete to try to get an opening around that piece of pipe to slide a coupling on it. Very expensive, very costly to the bottom line of your job as a contractor. So again, just ask the contractor, have you ever notched concrete? And once they say yes, I got a product for you. And then just show them this product and it will sell itself. He'll understand right away. And you as a rep, what we're going to do is we're going to give you a wooden block where we show you some stub ups, and then we'll also have a piece of pipe in that block. It's a 2x4 we use, and that piece of pipe will be reamed out. We'll also give you a 3/4 inch reamer bit and a couple of these 3/4 inch transition couplings. And you could show the contractor, hey, put this in there, and now you can see exactly how it works. Stick your finger in there. You're not going to feel any degradation at all, no ridges or nothing. It's the finger's going to go through nice and smooth, and it will be transitioned perfectly, so they know there will be no catches or no hookups when they're pulling their THHN or wire through it. It's a great product, and we sell a ton of them. We have a lot of distributors now starting to stock them, so that's good for us. And we tell them only stock the ones that the contractors are using. And most of the time, like I said, they're using PVC to EMT, PVC to rigid. Now, I will tell you, you have competition out there. Carlon makes a reamer bit. It's multi-pieces. They only go to 2-inch. They can only do schedule 40, where I can do schedule 40 or 80, but they only have PVC to PVC couplings. That's it. They don't have the whole line like we do, because we got the utility patent on the rest of them. So again, from our standpoint, you know, Carlon does a good job with pipe. But again, this is our bailiwick, and we've taken a lot of business over from some distributors that were stocking their product, but they started stocking ours because we could do both schedule 40 and 80. Now, our fittings will work for 40 and 80, but our reamer bit has to be specific for one for schedule 40 and one for schedule 80, because we take out a specific amount of the wall of that PVC for it to work properly. And again, ours are all honed, so they'll work on either, and all you're doing is gluing it and drop it in place and you're done. So the next thing we're going to talk about is our trapeze. So our trapeze, we're coming to overhead now as we're doing the building. So now we're going to be running pipe in the ceiling. And I'm going to give you an instance. A lot of people use strut with straps, okay? So what I do and how I sell this product to contractors is saying to the contractor, okay, here's my trapeze. We have one with 5 holes and we have one with 6 holes. The 6 holes is fairly new for us. We started out initially with 5 conduits per foot. We make this in a 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, all the way up to a 6 foot piece. And as you see by the picture on the screen, we actually just push the pipe through. That little metal piece in the center keeps rigidity on the pipe, and you're done. It supports the pipe. So now you use 2 pieces of threaded rod on each end of that trapeze, and you support it from the ceiling. So now when you start looking at your pipe, you're pushing that pipe through that opening in that hole, and you're putting your coupling on, and you're going to the next one. So now from a labor unit standpoint, I've got guys in Florida at $32, $37 an hour, and they're finding savings using this product. So I know right now, if you come into an area that you're doing 60, or I'll give you an example, Philadelphia is $94.50 an hour for a union electrician. Go up to New York, local 3, any of the 5 boroughs in New York, you're talking $130 an hour for an electrician. So when I sell this, I tell the contractor or distributor, okay, what's it cost you for a 10-foot piece of channel or strut, whether it be Steel City or others? Now you cut 1 foot of it. Right when you cut it, now you also need to spray and regalvanize the end by code to keep it UL listed. Now you got to take 5 straps. What's the cost of each strap? And then the labor unit to tie those straps in symmetrically across that piece of strut. And if you're doing 5 of them, and I'll give you an example, my old boss used to tell me they better line up perfect and it better be symmetrical, and you better use your tape measure and you better use a level, because I don't want to look up there and see that they're misaligned. Okay, very important. Again, all that takes time. There's no way anybody could beat me when you cost a total. On this product here, we're about $9 a linear foot for the 5-hole opening. I can go from 1/2 inch to 1 1/4 inch in any one of those holes, and I never have to have a box of straps sitting on the floor. I can also take out that center tab, and I could buy a bushing. We don't make the bushing, but you could buy them from Arlington or others, 1 1/4 inch, pop it in there, and now as you see on that picture, you can see interduct running through there, Cat 5, MC cable. I could put all kinds of things through that opening. The other thing you can't do with strut and straps is I can stack my product. As you see there, there's 2 of them stacked high. I could go 4 high, and I can get 20 pieces of pipe, all different size pipe, in a 1 foot by 1 foot square configuration, all hung off a 2-inch or 2 threaded rods with 4 nuts sandwiching those 4 trapeze together. Nobody can do that. Now, we do have competition now because this patent is run out on us, and we have people out there like Cooper, Beeline, that saw this and said, hey, that's a great idea. So they started making their own. But their problem is they don't have the bushing in the center. They go to 2-inch. They don't have the adjustability like we have, and they don't stack theirs. So, again, we looked at ours, and we had a customer in North Carolina say to us, hey, I really don't need one that's got as big as 1 1/4 inch opening. We usually run 3/4 and 1 inch. We said, okay, let's make one, same analogy. We'll make one with 6 openings. So we're going to give you 20% more openings for the same thing with 2 pieces of threaded rod. So again, we're going to save them a ton of money utilizing these. And again, I've got contractors where they ran just strictly interduct through all these, and they're mounting them on the ceiling of a tunnel up in New York, and they bought a couple thousand of them. Again, you could use these in a number of different ways. You could stack them. You also have holes in the top that you run a 1/4 by 20 screw down into the top of the conduit, so it keeps it from moving back and forth if you're going to be transporting them. Remember, a lot of contractors now are making their conduit rack systems prefab. They're doing it in their shop. They're color coding the couplings. They bring them out to the job site, and they lift the whole rack system up into the ceiling and tie it all in together. And that's where we started utilizing this product also. It's a great product. We sell a ton of them. If you go into the Orlando airport and you look up into the Delta terminal, you'll see a lot of my stuff up there. And this is one of the products that we sell. One of the things I did there, they had an architect come to me a while back, and he said, "Hey, Gare, we got a problem. We're running down this hallway, and I've only got about a 2-foot space, but I need to run multiple pieces of pipe. What do you got?" I said, "Well, let's take our trapeze in a 1-foot section, put 4 of them and stack them high. Now you can run 20 pieces of pipe in a width of 1 foot by high 1 foot." And he was like, "No shit." He says, "But I also need to run some wire basket tray." I said, "No problem. Just extend the threaded rod out the bottom of the trapeze as deep as, or as long as you need it, and attach the wire basket directly to the same threaded rod." He said, "That looks great. It worked perfect." They used that on that area, and that was through either Tri-City or M&M Electric is who the contractor was for the airport. So again, we've sold a lot of this nationwide. It's a great product. We have some distributors stock it, but not many, because we carry a lot of it in stock ourselves. And really, from shipping it from the Elk Grove Village, Illinois, to your contractor only takes a few days UPS ground. And again, if you're coming out of a piece of switchgear and you're going down a corridor like in the airport, they started out with a 6-foot piece, and as they went down the hallway and they transitioned through the trapeze, they used elbows and an elbow down the wall to put a panel board. So we went from a 6-foot piece to a 5-foot piece to a 4-foot piece and kept transitioning the whole way down. Already pre-cut for them. You don't have to do anything. Just hang them, slap your pipe through them, put your coupling on, and go. And nothing has to line up. Everything drops symmetrically. As you look at the bottom, there's a little tiny point at the bottom of the trapeze, and everything falls to the bottom, whether it's 1/2 inch or 1.25 inches. Makes it very easy to utilize. And again, that's our trapeze product line. They're all UL listed, galvanized steel. We also make them in stainless steel, and we've sold a bunch of those for contractors doing work outside that needed to hang pipe across the bottom of a ladder rack or something like that, or cable tray to run some pipe through from one building to the next. Very popular. We also make a wide flange style that will go on the roof. And if you see that little green hard hat guy right there, that's Peter Vrain, and that's at the Bellagio Hotel out in Vegas. And you can see all those trapeze. That's all that we were doing there. And he was up there running pipe and got some pictures taken. And we've done just about every hotel and casino in Vegas in the past 30 years. We've done a lot of work out there. Peter spent a lot of time in Vegas selling our product. We also make some custom style and a large lay-in style. We don't sell a ton of them because these are one of the products that is not UL listed because of the cost of basically getting something like this UL listed. It would be probably about $300,000-$400,000 to do it because of the amount of material, the size of it. And you got to remember, all this stuff is based upon load ratings, how much it will physically hold in the ceiling or off a threaded rod. So there's a lot of heavy duty tests that UL does to make sure nothing will fall. Now, one of the other things we do, we make a lot of custom styles where we'll just stamp steel for somebody as a trapeze. And you notice here, that was used in a residential condo unit where the guy told us, "Hey, I want a piece that's 4 foot wide and I want multiple holes in it because it doesn't need to be UL. I just need them stamped and we're going to slide that pipe through." Now, imagine trying to do that with strut and straps. Lots of luck. Lots of luck. Ain't going to happen. I'm going to save you a ton of labor units. So we do a lot of stamped steel on a project like this. Guy told us what he needed, sent us a print. We basically did one for him, sent it back. He approved it, and then we made a whole bunch of them for it. And again, we always do a submittal process on anything custom, and we make sure the contractor signs off on either a sample or a print before we start manufacturing. So there is no ambiguity of what he's getting and how it's laid out. So the next thing I want to go to, we're up in the ceiling, and now we need to start hanging boxes from the ceiling, and we need to come down and have a box being supporting a plate and a conduit. I don't know why this page ain't opening up. Here we get it to do it now. What? I apologize, but that's not an opening up on there. I'm going to show you our two-way. So basically what we do is we have a steel plate. It's manufactured out of domestic grade steel. And what you do is you take this plate, you mount it to the top of your standard square box. It will work with numerous size boxes. Up here, it accepts a 4, 4 and 11, and 5-inch square. And what it does, it lets the contractor support the box with one piece of threaded rod, but more importantly, support the pipe coming out of that box. Now, the code says that depending on where you're at, you have to support from the center of that box where that conduit meets out at a certain distance to hold and support the pipe. So we did initially, we made a plate called the CSP1, and I apologize, the website ain't opened that plate up, but that plate's just a flat plate with slots in it, and it basically gives you an X in the center that you can actually mount the box to the plate. So now you use your threaded rod, and now right here, you would basically use these tabs, and that would act as support coming through that tab for the conduit coming into that box. So again, that's going to save a contractor a bunch of money. How's that? Because typically a contractor would put a piece of strut in the ceiling, and he's got to have basically 2 or 3 spring nuts, one on each side to support each piece of pipe coming into the box, one to support the box itself, and then he's got to have the threaded rod come down, and then he also has to have either Minrelax straps or something, some type of conduit support strap to hold the conduit. So realistically, in the industry, we always said it was roughly about $7 a support for a threaded rod on a piece of conduit for 3/4 or 1 inch. So right there, with only using my plate, I'm saving them $14. But more importantly, now he could use just a beam clamp on my one piece of threaded rod to support that box, plus multiple pieces of conduit coming into that box. So I saved them a ton of money. On a typical job, like a hospital, hotel, we'll sell thousands of these plates. We're doing a hospital job in Delaware. On this one plate, like you're seeing right here, we sold roughly 3,000 of this style, okay? That's our 2-way. We also make it in a halfway. I also make one in a 4-way. So now I've got 4 pieces of pipe coming in, and it basically, you can see it here, and you can see how it's supported the box. And again, makes it real easy. These tabs let you slide the pipe right through, supports the pipe all off of that one plate. The other thing that I do is I give you these slots. These slots, if you need to secure the pipe, you could still use a pipe strap if you want. We give them all the way around. We also give you perforated holes. So now what I could do is once that's hanging up, I could take a strap, put it upside down on this slot right here, and use this slot with hardware, or better yet, what's going to save me more money is use a self-tapper screw and run that right through the top of here, and now I can run a conduit off of the top of my plate as a home run. So there's a lot of ways you can utilize this plate and save the contractor money, okay? On these plates alone, most contractors, once they start using them, they're going to keep coming back to you because they could save a bunch of money. And again, we also make a little conduit block support that we could put on the threaded rod, and now I could support back-to-back straps. The code says you can never use 2 pipe straps back-to-back with hardware. That was not intended for that use. You could not find any intent in any engineering document, whether you're talking TMB, Bridgeport, or anybody who makes straps, for the intended use of putting 2 straps back to back. Do guys do it? Yes. Can guys get a job red tagged because they do it? Yes. Our block makes them have something in between it, and it makes it real easy to utilize. It's tapped, so you can just use a regular screw through it, or as you see that little dark area right here, that's a slot, so I can put a hex head through there. My threaded part will sit out. Now I put my strap on and a nut, and I'm good to go. And again, you can see the picture there. That's our 4-way. I want to show you, we make a round style. This is so that you can bring in pipe in all kinds of different directions. We make a universal style, Now, one of the things that you're going to hear a lot more of is pencil rod. Now, they started using this out in the West Coast, and pencil rod is basically like threaded rod, but no threads on it. So what they do is they use these little metal clips that spring and they attach to the rod, and it will keep things in place. So what we did was we adjusted our plate. We also made it this style, the 8-way, with fingers. And we have large contractors, whether they be union guys or non-union guys, utilizing this plate for home runs, because I can bring 8 pieces of pipe into one box. I can also use multiple size boxes, and you can see down here, even up to a 6x6 as a junction box, and bring multiple pieces of pipe, and these fingers act as support and secure the pipe. But we also put these little tabs in so that they can push that tab down and use pencil rod to hang this box either horizontal or vertical in a wall. So it makes it real nice and easy for a contractor to use. I'll give you an example. When we sell this unit right here, we'll sell roughly 6,000 of them for a large hospital job. And right now, most contractors will tell us on our 8-way, they're saving roughly almost 2 hours of labor and about $57 worth of material to support one box with 8 pieces of pipe coming into it. Now, when you start talking up in New Jersey at $89 an hour, right, and I'm going to get that kind of savings for 2 hours for a plate that will cost the contractor roughly $17, it's a no-brainer. Once they try them once, they love them. They're also utilizing them in a prefab application where what they do is they mount the plate to the box, just like our other ones. They actually install the connector in the box. So now all their guys are doing is pushing the pipe through our fingers and then pushing it into the connector and then screwing the connector tight, and they're done. So a lot of these are being used in a prefab application, and it makes it very easy for them to do. It saves them a ton of labor. And again, we have a lot of contractors that love this product. And again, it's made with domestic grade steel, UL listed. A lot of times inspectors, when they first see it, they're like, man, I never seen that before. Let me see it. Once they see it's UL listed, they're like, man, that's a nice way of doing it. Have at it. So I've never had any local municipality or inspector say that we couldn't use it, because it is UL listed for this intent. And again, we give you here a little bit of a disclaimer when you start using a 6x6 junction box, because the fingers don't come all the way down. You can only use certain size pieces of pipe. But these fingers will be rated basically for anything from 1/2 inch up to 1 1/4 inch on a regular size 4 or 4 square box. Makes it very easy. Then that same philosophy, we said, okay, let's make one that we could utilize. And there's what we call our junction box plate. So this plate right here is a good size plate. It's our CSP 20x20. It's going to handle up to a 12-inch by 12-inch junction box. You can mount the box right to the plate. We also then give you the slot all the way around it for your pipe support. So you can use a Minrelax strap, or some guys like to use those little the black straps. They clip on, however you want to do it. And again, my product can be supported horizontal or vertical by these tabs. So you push the tab down, and here you'll see 1/2 inch threaded rod with a nut on each end, and I put a beam clamp up there, and now I can hang it in the ceiling anywhere I want. Here you can see it hung off a threaded rod and how it's mounted. So again, makes it real nice and easy. I'll give you an example. I was doing a daylight harvesting job with Lutron and a contractor up in New York City in the Bronx, and their internal shop costs are roughly $74 an hour. So he said to me, hey, if I got a kid out there, an apprentice, building a square to hold a 12x12 junction box, he said, can I utilize this plate? And he said, I'm thinking about doing a prefab. I said, hey, the guy's name was Augie. I said, Augie, listen, let's do it this way. Since Lutron's telling the contractor and you that you have to provide an enclosure for the LED drivers, why don't we mount the LED drivers in your shop, and we'll put them in there on a piece of DIN rail. Then we'll hardwire those LED drivers to a busman terminal strip in that junction box. So now all your guys got to do is come in, hang that 1/2-inch threaded rod with a beam clamp in the middle of the room. Then they take their MC wire whips and whip it from each fixture over to this box. It already had pre-designated knockouts. They use an Arlington style connector and they pop it through, and now they tie it into the busman terminal strip and they're done. Once we sat down and did all the engineering work, he saved roughly 1 hour and 40 minutes of building a square and putting all this stuff together at $74 an hour. He bought a couple thousand of these plates. And now anytime they hang a junction box in the ceiling, they utilize our plate. And again, we give you the slot so you can support your pipe or your MC cable like you got right here. You put a connector on it, makes it real nice and easy. You can even use a one-hole strap with a piece of hardware. Makes it very easy to do. And again, we're even in the process now of developing a newer one, a bigger plate to hang a bigger size junction box. But I got a lot of contractors that love this product. On our plate, you can't see it on here, but we got 4 openings on the back side of this plate, so we can come in the back side of the junction box if required. Makes it real nice and easy. Let's see. So as you come down here, that's the actual conduit caps I was talking about earlier for pull string. Pull this up real quick. Oop, I don't know why it's going. Apologize there, my mouse ain't. There we go. So again, we make these caps in all different sizes. We're in the process right now of developing another cap that we're going to use for what we call the tilt-up buildings. We're producing a cap that's going to go over top of a piece of conduit, and it's going to have like a weed eater string sitting out of the top of it with a concave top portion of the cap. So you could take some petroleum grease, slap it on top of there, put the cap on your pipe, and then when they come in and trail over the concrete over top of your conduits, that petroleum grease will turn the conduit and the concrete black, because concrete sucks the moisture out of anything. So then you'll be able to find your pipes right off the wall of a tilt-up building. It will save a contractor many, many minutes every time he needs to physically go find where his pipes are after they build this slab and they bring the walls in and tilt them up. Now he's got to come back with prints and start measuring off the wall to find out where his pipe are. Now I'm going to go over, and as you notice, I'm going to use the toolbar and go to the right-hand side of the page and start up at the top. We also make a center stop coupling. The center stop coupling basically means that in the center of that coupling, there is no stop. Now, UL requires us to put a screw in the center of that coupling so that the electrician could still find the center if needed be. The reason why we sell these is because a lot of times if you take 2 pieces of conduit and you're putting them back to back, it's very difficult to get a coupling in there. Peter developed this product, I believe it was back in 1971, and he was actually on a job site in Texas, and as he was driving by, he seen an electrician's trailer that there was a couple pickup trucks there, and the lights were on. So he pulled in, knocked on the door, and that's how Peter Vrain used to do a lot of his business. He would drive his old caddy and just stop different places and ask questions. So he walked in and he seen this superintendent sitting there grinding out the center of couplings. And he said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, on these rigs, we got a lot of big 2 inches of rigid pipe that we have to put elbows back to back." He said, "It's a pain in the ass to do it." He said, "If I could take out this center stop, I could slide that over a little bit and I could get the 2 pieces of pipe together." So Peter was like, "Hey, I can make them for you." So he came back and developed this product. We also make masonry block supports. Now, ours is a little different. We have guys out there like Caddy, and they make a product that they utilize spring steel. Our product is not spring steel. Our product is much more rigid. We make a single gang, a 2 gang, and we can actually mount ours to any box. And it's basically either a clip-on where it's got a little set of teeth that mount to basically eccentric knockout. So once you clip it on, you really need to use a screwdriver to pry it back off. Some guys will clip it on and then run a regular screw into the back of the actual box itself. But what happens is, when I was a kid, an apprentice, and we were doing block wall, we would find all the garbage on the web, on the basically site, and we would stuff it inside that concrete opening so that that box wouldn't fall back into the hole. Okay, so then they started producing different styles, and again, spring steel, the problem with that is, once it's in that hole and you start pushing your devices and your wire, especially if it's solid wire instead of stranded, it pushes the whole box right back into the masonry block. Pain in the ass. Now you have to try to get your lineman pliers in there to pull it out, and then now you're going to use wooden shims to line that box back up with the face of the masonry block. So it was very difficult to do. Ours is not going to bend like spring steel. All right, makes it very easy. We sell a lot of these to guys doing work in schools and old style buildings that where like you would find in Northrop Grumman or Lockheed Martin, that they got a lot of concrete block walls throughout their buildings. And again, it just makes it really easy to put it in and make sure it doesn't fall in the back into the block. We also make one that's an adjustable. We just developed this probably about less than a year ago. This thing will cost roughly less than 40 cents. But the nice part about it is it's UL listed, and each one of these lines is a score mark to tell you the depth needed to go to give you back box support. So a lot of times if guys are putting something in a wall, they want to make sure it doesn't fall back into the wall. So they'll use back box support. These things are really easy. They just clip them onto the side of the box. They score it and bend it with their lineman's pliers. And again, you can see the different types of depths. And again, with ours, once you put the mud ring on this box, that piece is never coming off. It's stuck in there and it's sandwiched in between the two. We sell a bunch of these, again, to guys doing any type of schoolwork or a lot of different installations on this one. But again, we developed this because we didn't find anyone out there that was making something like this with different score marks on it and UL listed, made with domestic grade steel. So again, if you're doing work at a federal military base or something like that, this is Buy American, baby. Let's see. All right. And again, as you've seen on some of the other pictures, we make what we call a 4 conduit block support from only one rod. And this allows you to basically marry up 2 pipe straps back to back to support. So we make these in a lot of different configurations, and you can see down here in the bottom different examples of how they're being utilized. I sell a lot of them that use them in this configuration right here with some pipe straps, where guys are using them when they come in and they're running a gen set throughout a building. They're running a lot of those cables up in the ceiling. It's an existing building, and now they're putting a gen set in there. So they'll use the armor clad aluminum cable running through the ceiling. They'll use one piece of threaded rod, and now they can support multiple pieces of armored cable off of that one piece of threaded rod with our block and utilizing pipe straps. Makes it real easy. Again, we utilize this a lot in prefab applications. We have a number of customers. MC Dean doing the Microsoft job, data center in the Richmond, Virginia area or Northern Virginia. They buy like 1,000 of these at a clip to utilize. And again, it makes their job a lot easier. You can do a number of different ways to support it. We make truss hangers. Ours are a little different. So what we do is we actually weld all of the truss itself, the part that goes through this part of the truss. We weld it all up with a piece of threaded rod, and then we put a nut on it. We also put the plate on it. Now, the nice part about this, it's got these little teats right here where when you push this up into that truss and turn it, it actually falls down in there, and there's no way for it to come out. Okay, so again, and you can see the J-style hangers to hang pipe off of those trusses. Now, most guys what a lot of them do is they buy a piece of threaded rod, some fender washers, and some nuts, and they got somebody physically there cutting the threaded rod and making them up themselves. Ours, we make it with a welded piece on the top, so it goes through the truss properly, and it's got the little parts that stick out that will lock into the truss. So again, we sell a bunch of them. And now I'm going to get into let's show one more product here. Our quick block support. This is really cool. Our prefab guy, his name's Suresh Patel. He's been with us for probably 42 years. He's the vice president in charge of manufacturing at our plant. Very, very, very smart man. And he does a lot of our prefab. We just did a prefab job out in the Vegas area, 600,000 touches of putting product together. Not one mistake, not one error. Everything delivered 1 week before the contractor needed it for his drop dead date. So one of the things that people do is when they use the threaded rod, they typically put the threaded rod through the plate or into the box, and then they use a fender washer and a nut on both sides. The problem is they're using the knockout of either a 1/2 inch or 3/4 on that 4-inch or 4 11/16 box. The problem when you do prefab, you put all that together, then you throw it in a box and you drive it out to the job site. A lot of times it loosens up because the threaded rod is smaller than the opening of the concentric knockout, and it moves. So now I got an electrician that I'm paying $45 an hour to retighten nuts up on a piece of threaded rod. Waste of time, waste of money. So what we did was we developed this little block, and now the block mounts, and again, with ours, we have tapped holes, so we actually bring the screw right through the inside of the box into our little support here, and it basically takes up no fill space inside the box. So a lot of times you got to remember, if you've got a threaded rod in there, you got a nut and a fender washer, and if a guy cut it, maybe there might be a sharp edge where he's threading it back on. That's sitting inside the box where you're pushing all your wires back into that box, okay? So that could be an issue also. We take up no fill because we just use 2 screws straight in, as you see here, and it comes through our tapped hole into the top of the box. Makes it real easy. This hole here is multiple tap, so I could run 1/4 inch or 3/8 rod in the same hole using the same product. So I've got prefab shops buying these in groups of 500 or 1,000 and mounting these to every one of their 4 square boxes with a piece of threaded rod in the prefab shop. And they also put the connectors on, or they'll even this is our CSP1 plate, our Michigan plate, we called it. I couldn't open that up in the beginning because the website, but you can see this just a flat plate with a cross in the center of it to mount on top. And we give you a slot so that you can mount your hardware with a strap on each side, a Mineralac strap or a TNB 6HB1 or 3/4, whatever it is. So again, this plate right here, I could put that strap on, put a connector in my box, put this all together with the threaded rod. So all now I'm doing is sliding my pipe through the opening of the strap into the connector. I tighten up both of those and I'm done basically. And you can do all that prefab in your shop. And again, remember, prefab, you want to do it in your shop so that it's consistent. You get the most productivity because of the fact you're not on the job site. It's in a controlled environment. And again, you're going to save labor units by doing it in your shop compared to out in the field. Okay. So another big product we sell a lot of in terms of prefab shops. We also make what we call a cinch clamp. Peter developed this thing back in 1973. I have sold some of these, but usually when we're going to get into a situation like I'll say like 4-inch, to be competitive with a 4-inch, say TNB strap, I need to be at about 500 to 1,000 pieces of this to get down to those levels. But again, where I'm going to save them money is I don't physically have to have a guy sitting there with a drill or anything. Oh, I basically use a screwdriver and I clip these things on and I'm done. So again, that's where the labor unit savings comes in. and we have those in stock. Again, all these products are stock out there in our Chicago, Illinois branch. This plate here, we sell a lot of these, and one of the things I've been doing is trying to market these to people that are doing fire alarm systems like Honeywell and folks like that. Now, a lot of times you're going to find contractors are getting more involved in the alarm systems, CCTV systems, security systems, because the contractor usually gets the bid for all this stuff, and they basically say, hey, since I'm already running all the wire and pipe and the ceilings and everything and down in the walls, why don't you just let me take on that portion? And then the Honeywell guys or whoever it is can come in and install the equipment and do the commissioning on the job, right? So that's how the contractors, the electrical contractors, are trying to diversify themselves and broaden the breadth of the stuff that they're installing inside these buildings. Again, they're doing the same thing with lighting systems, the dimming systems, and all those things. You go to any IBW shop now, they usually have labs set up for the apprentices and also their journeymans that they will train them how to do alarm system work and dimming system work for daylight harvesting and others, Lutron and all the others. So again, they have qualified electricians that can go out on the field and install this stuff. We make this plate, and it's the only one out there that will handle a deep box like this, and they're mostly always coated in red. And this is where you would put an annunciator and the alarm side by side, all on one plate. Makes it very easy. We sell these to a bunch of contractors that have gotten into doing the alarm systems, fire alarm systems for their projects. And now I'm going to come to our Big O plates. So now we're talking about rough in, and you need to put the box or the devices in the wall. We make what we call the Big O flat. Now, this is a flat piece of steel. It's, again, made in the USA with domestic grade steel. It's UL listed. And what we like to talk about is touches. And that's how I talk to contractors. And when I used to train apprenticeships, I'd always tell them when they started, we're talking back in the late 70s, early 80s, I'd always tell them, hey, think of touches as a ration of time as a labor unit. And every time you touch something, it costs you $1, right? We'll say it's $60 an hour. Every minute's $1. So when we look at it, we say, okay, if I take a caddy bracket and I got to take a box and put it to that bracket, and say I'm doing it in prefab or I'm doing it out into the field, a caddy bracket is going to be roughly 9 touches. You're going to have to take the bracket apart, you're going to bend it, you're going to take it apart, slide it back together, and then you're going to mount your box to it. And then you're going to take self-tappers. They basically have a little drill bit on the end that's threaded. They call them tech screws. And then you tech screw that into the plate. Once you tech screw it in, you're done. You can't move it. With mine, I'm 3 touches. I take a box and a mud ring, and I sandwich it in between my big flat O. And I make this in a size 16 and 24. So when we talk about touches, imagine if you're doing a 100-story office building and the other guy's 9 touches and I'm 3. That's a differential of 6. That's huge, huge to the bottom line of labor units for your job. So when we start showing this to contractors, we also say to them, hey, bud, remember, we'll put on a face of ours, we put 1-inch designation marks, score marks across the face of that. Makes it real easy to line up multiple boxes as you see in the picture. But more importantly, when you get out in the field, maybe that box isn't exactly right where it's supposed to be per your print. Well, if you tech screwed them in with a caddy bracket or others, now you got to take all that shit apart. Mine, all I do is loosen the mud ring up a little bit, and I can slide my box anywhere along the face of that plate. Saves them a ton of time. The other thing we looked at when we developed this plate, I said, hey, I only want 2 slots and I want them elongated because we know most drywall contractors can't figure out 16 on centers or 24 on centers on metal studs. They're usually off a little bit. So with other people, they might have 4 screws, 2 on each side. Well, guess what? That's 2 extra touches. Mine, I could use one self-tapper on each side of that plate, marry it to the stud, and I'm done. Now, from a prefab standpoint, we use this plate a lot where we'll put it all together. We'll put the device in there, and I'm going to show you, we even have a metal cover that goes over the top of this duplex receptacle so drywall and mud won't get in it. But we'll also install it with we'll put, the Wago blocks if you want to attach it that way. Or better yet, we do a lot of MC wire whips, where we'll put a whip on there, attach it, we'll label the wires and all. Everything is tested. The wiring device itself, we basically put the black tape around it. We use Stay-Cons for the green lead and also our grounding lead also. And then we'll put on a 12, 13, or 14-foot MC whip. So now what we'll also do is label them accordingly per the room. So now think of it from this standpoint. Instead of having an electrician, master electrician, or a journeyman at a high rate, I can basically produce these in a shop using our prefab, or they use them doing their prefab with a wire whip. You come out on a metal crate or on a pallet, you pick it up, and then we'll put a label on it designating where on the wall it goes. Now you don't really need anybody that's an electrician. All they need to do is be able to measure from the floor up to make sure it's per code and use 2 self-tappers to marry it to the stud. Save you a lot of money. And just one thing, when you're anytime as an electrician and you're laying out a room, when you walk into the room, you always go clockwise and you call it wall A, wall B, wall C, as you go around like a clock, or wall 1, wall 2. So it's very easy to label them and designate which wall it would go on. And you could always put on there, if you wanted, hey, this is a switch device or this is a receptacle device, so they know that it's supposed to be mounted, 18 inches off the floor or 54 based upon code for switching or a duplex receptacle. Makes it real easy. You could also use these datacom wise too, but this product is great. We sell a ton of them. And I'll give you an example. AFC, the wire manufacturer up in Boston, came to us and said, hey, we're using a caddy bracket. We do a ton of prefab. We use our MC wire whip on this stuff. We'd like to see your product. So I went up there and I showed the guy our 16 and 24 inch. I gave him a couple samples and he said, could you stay here for a little bit? We'd like to take them out in our test bench area. And we'd like to have 2 of our better assembly workers put together yours compared to the others. And we're going to time it. He came back in with a big smile on his face and he said, hey, I need 20,000 of the 16 and I need 40,000 of the 24 inch. And can we place an order for them today? And can you have them here next week? Because he found out right away how fast, with only 3 touches, they could put ours together compared to the caddy product. Again, saving labor units, saving time. Time is money. And that's our big flat O. And again, we have a lot of contractors stocking them. We also make what we call a dual wall box support, very unique, where we can use the same 16-inch or 24-inch cavity, and we can marry a box back to back for commercial buildings. We do this in a lot of buildings, whether it be a police precinct. I just did one in Ohio, a fire department. Remember, a lot of times you got a receptacle right inside the office, and you got one in the hallway. In most hotels you do, because the girls need to, or guys need to basically plug in the vacuum and vacuum the hallways, right? So here I could put 2 boxes back to back in the same 16-inch cavity. That means I only have to drop 1 NC drop from the ceiling for my home runs, and I could save myself a bunch of money. Now, I will tell you, in certain areas, you have to verify by code, because if you put a system together in the same 16 or 24-inch cavity back to back, because of fire regulations, you might have to use a putty pad inside there so no flame can go from one room to the other room. Okay, That's not happening in a lot of commercial buildings. That's more where there's people living in them or residential. And where I do this a lot is even out in the state of Michigan on a lot of the dormitories, they buy this, but they need to put putty pads in it because somebody physically as a human being is living in one room and also the hallway is acceptable. So you got to put a putty pad in it. But most jurisdictions don't require that in a lot of commercial buildings, like the police department, the fire department, and stuff like that, because nobody's living there. So again, just an easy way to do it with dual wall support. A lot of prefab guys like this because they could set it up in the walls and get it all set up real easy back to back. And again, we make a conduit and box wall support. This one here is just a flat plate that you can marry up boxes to. You could also use one-hole straps to support your conduit. We do a bunch of this to segregate the conduits running through those cavities, going up a wall from one floor to the next. And again, it just makes it real easy to use one piece of strap already bent for you. Now, we went into some contractors, they were actually bending shit like this themselves. It was costing them money to do it, but they figured that was the easiest way for them to do it. When they seen ours, they said, we ain't doing that no more because the labor unit, you guys punch these out in the thousands. We'll just buy them from you. And here's our next one. Now, this flat fixed position, one box support bracket, we sell a bunch of these. Again, we do these in a lot of prefab applications. And you'll notice right here, we put the UL sticker on the box because it's an assembled prefab device from us. We put a metal cover on it to keep it all clean when the good drywall guys are in there. But we also use the Wago blocks. So all you're going to do is, if you add a piece of MC, you put your connector on it, you strip off a little bit of your wire on your THHN, you plug it into the Wago block, then you stuff each Wago through that hole, put your MC connector through in there, and basically you're done at that point making your connection. Now, the thing with our plate, it's going to handle multiple boxes and sizes. Teardrop, so I can work with one hand. We're going to give you 4 slots on each side. So now I don't have to designate. A lot of customer or a lot of competition, you have to designate whether it's left or right mount. Ours, you don't. You could use it either way. And when you get our sample product kit for salesman kit, you're going to notice how rigid this plate is. We developed this plate for the Bellagio Hotel and Casino in Vegas. And what happened was he bought a whole bunch of product and he returned it to the distributor because what happened on the product that he was using was made out of spring steel. It also had a little back support in it. It designated whether you had to use left or right. But his problem was when the electricians went to stuff either the switch or the receptacle back in the box, that plate twisted in the wall. And once it twisted, now they got to pull all that stuff out of that electrical box. They got to get some lineman's pliers in there or needle nose and try to re-straighten that plate with the surface of that wall. And think about this. The Bellagio has 8,000 plus rooms. And imagine if you had a 2% failure rate of when your guys stuffed that stuff back in the wall, it twisted the plate. It didn't twist the stud. It twisted the plate because it was spring steel. What's that cost you to fix all them? And if you're at $74 an hour, did you have that budgeted into your job as a callback? No way. You lost your money on that one. So again, with ours being as rigid as is, I don't need any back box support. You're going to twist the stud before you twist my plate. And that it's not going to happen because you got the drywall up, sandwiched around it. There ain't no way. When you start stuffing that back in there, that box ain't moving. So again, great product. We sell a lot of them, sell them on military bases because it's buy an American type product, made in America, UL listed. So we not only make it as a single gang, we also make it as a 2 gang. Here's a 2 gang, and this one here, center stud mount. So now I can be on both sides of that cavity. I can use one for datacom, one for power. Okay, makes it real easy. And since it's center stud mount, no back box support. Again, my plate's very rigid. I can use multiples. I can even put a adjustable mud ring and mount it to the front of this plate and put any size box behind it. We have a lot of contractors doing that right now. And the reason being is most people, if you're going into any type of operation or project and you've got grout and tile, right now you don't know how much grout or tile, the thickness of the tile is. Even the prints don't sometimes tell you. And again, how much grout are they going to put behind that tile? So the code says you're no longer more than a 1/16 of an inch differential between the surface of the plate and the mud ring. So we've got guys now in Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey. The inspectors are carrying calipers, and if you're over, they're telling you to rip it out and put in an adjustable mud ring. So that could be very costly if you're looking at tile work, because again, as an electrician, we don't do with tile, man. It's done by somebody else. So you might have to call that tile guy back in and say, hey, I got to cut this opening up to get in there to take out that mud ring because we sized it wrong, to put an adjustable one or put the right one in there and then come back and redo the tile work around it. That's costly. So a lot of times guys are automatically going to an adjustable mud ring in a lot of instances where there's tile, and also in data center closets where you're using 5/8 plywood, flame retardant plywood in those data closets where they're using punch down blocks for your telephone system and all. Well, most of the time they always have duplex receptacles in there to support that telephone equipment. Again, you don't know the thickness and the dimensions of that plywood are not going to be perfect. So you need to use an adjustable mud ring in a lot of those applications. We also make a 4-way. Okay. We also do some custom mounting plates where we'll put if a guy tells us, like you see up here in the left hand with a can in it, and they'll tell us, hey, I'm going in, again, we'll use the reference of a Bellagio. Maybe every time you walk into the hotel room, there's a cadenza right to your left-hand side, and there's one LED fixture up in the ceiling as a can. Well, if you're using a standard bracket, sliding style telescope bracket, your guy has to get up there and do some finite measurement every time he's loading that in there to make sure he's meeting the building prints. With ours, he could buy a plate from us, mount the 4-inch, 5-inch, or 6-inch can through that opening. We'll give him 4 holes designated based upon where he tells us to put it, and then basically we send it to him. Now he knows consistency. Every time he puts it up, it's going to be in the same exact spot over and over. And if you ever use the Trimble device or a laser, you have to set that up in the room and do all that. It's costly. It's time consuming. Imagine if you didn't have to do anything like that, and all you had to do is take a reference mark off of the wall and measure out 16 inches or whatever it might be to where the center of that can would be. Save you a ton of labor units long term. We do make a slick nut product. We support this guy, but we don't physically make it ourselves. He came to us and said, hey, we'd like you to put this in the catalog, and Peter developed the contract with him. But this is another little innovative product where you basically put this bushing on top, and now it has a tool that sits down on those little holes, and you put that tool in your drill. Instead of using a pair of channel lock pliers to try to take and tighten that bushing up, you just use a drill. And again, if you see 6 or 8 pipes like that, 4-inch or 3-inch rigid, it saves you a ton of time. And again, it's all nice and formed perfectly. It's rounded, no sharp edges, gives you one with a grounding bushing if you need it, but it just sits right on there and you can pull your wire right into the cavity. And again, we make T-bar hangers. We sell a bunch of these to different contractors. They like them. Again, I've got probably 3 or 4 distributors that buy these regularly from me, usually at like $100 a clip for their lighting department. We also make this style that will hold the box up, a couple different types. The pair, it's a pair, so you get 2 pieces and the 2 clips. You mount the clips to your box, and then you slide it through, and it supports off the T-bar. Makes it real easy to hang a light up. Vertical adjust. We did this for a hotel. The guy came to us and said, hey, listen, I need something that's going to be able to clip on to the T-bar in a grid ceiling, but I need it so it is adjustable in different height lengths depending on where we're at. So then what he said was, well, why don't you put them all together for us? So we built like 1,000 of these, put the lighting all together on it for him, and then just shipped it to him that way. And now all he does is pull them up in the ceiling and clip them into the T-bar. And then he basically uses his whip to come into the side of that electrical enclosure box there and mount it with an Arlington style or quick style MC connector. Save him a ton of money. So prefab, as I was stating, we do a ton of different prefab. You'll see all of our stuff. We only use UL listed components. Basically all of our stuff, when we assemble it, we put a UL sticker on it to make sure that, you know, everything we do is in per UL accordance. The guy that actually runs the shop from a quality standpoint, he worked with UL for 20 years. Tom's very smart. He has 100% control of our production line. He can stop it at any time if he sees something he doesn't like. And one of the things, like I said, is consistency and quality. Peter Brame has never taken anything back because we did something wrong. When we build something for you, even I'll show you like this little, you see the one with the orange twist lock receptacle. If you came to us and said, Gary, I want to buy 1,000 of them for a data center job, we would put a couple of them together for you, send them to you as a sample. The contractor would physically have to sign one of them and send it back to us as approval. That's the way he wants it built. So there's no ambiguity when we start the process of the purchase order. He's getting exactly what he wants. And that little box right there, there's no way a lot of contractors could build that as fast and as we can, plus putting a UL sticker on it. Remember, when an inspector's looking at a box and he sees a UL assembly sticker on it, it goes a long way. He's not going to ask to inspect that. He's going to walk away because he knows a craftsman built that. And he also knows UL standards that they come in unannounced in your building as a UL shop, and they verify you're doing stuff correctly all the time. And again, from our standpoint, it just goes into our quality and what we do. So we'll put all kinds of whips together and boxes with enclosures like that. You tell us what you want, we'll put it together for you. And again, you can see all the different types of assemblies that we do utilizing our plates. And again, we sell a lot of these individual components strictly to the contractors that have their own prefab shops. And one of the things I like to tell our agents, if you got a guy that's getting ready to start and he wants to build his own prefab shop and do it, get a hold of me. Let me talk to him. Let me give him some manufacturing. My background, I'm a Six Sigma guy. I was trained on lean. I'm a green belt. So there's a lot of manufacturing processes that I talk about, and I can make sure that he understands what he's getting into before he does it. Like a lot of times I go in the shops and the guy's got crap everywhere. There's no uniformity. There's no Ford production line where one thing comes in the door and everything goes down the assembly line and never moves 1 inch back and then goes out the shipping door. They got crap staggered all over. Plus, a lot of contractors never take into account what's the square foot of the warehouse you're using, the lights and all the utilities that you have to do as a prefab shop. All that's cost. All that has to go into every one of these products you make and basically, put that as an amortized cost for you doing this work. Again, we can make a lot of contractors that are like the 25 and 50 electrician guys be able to basically compete against the much bigger guys because we could do a lot of this sub-assembly work for them. Makes it real easy. And again, you can see all the different types we use. And again, you also saw there on the prefab, the assembly and our protective covers, the metal covers. Excuse me. I have a lot of contractors buy these covers from me just because they're reusable. They clip one in their metal and they destroy the drywall guys' router bits. The drywall guys hate them, but it keeps all your stuff nice and clean and no mud getting inside your box. And again, this is the only product in my entire line that is not made by us, that's made overseas in China. And what we did was we bought all the rights to this, the engineering rights and everything else, and we're trying to get, excuse me, we're trying to get UL to approve it as a U.S. made product. The reason why we got this is because, as I was mentioning before, the adjustable mud ring is huge right now because of the code changes. So a lot of our contractors that were asking us to do prefab, they said, hey, on these items, they're going in a hospital, you need to have an adjustable mud ring. So us collectively as a group bought a whole bunch of different mud rings from different manufacturers. We sat down and we liked these the best because this guy had the most forefront in engineering. All of his screws on these things are captive. A lot of the other manufacturers, if you take a Milwaukee drill and you back the screw out, it will pull right out of the mud ring, and now the thing collapses, and there's no way to get it back together inside the wall. So you're screwed, literally. So on ours, these are internal inside the box. They're not outside, where some of them that are mounted on the outside, they didn't realize you're still gonna have to cut around that drywall to get to the screws to adjust it. Ours, you don't have to do it. They're internal. And again, the guy had a pretty good depth. You could see the depth rating of each of the mud rings. So again, it's just something that we had to provide. And again, this is the only thing in our line that we basically got it through China, but we're working on it diligently so we can have an American-made product. Excuse me. And then we do have some tools. Again, our snap-off covers are here. We make this product right here. It's our rigid pipe spinner. I sell a bunch of these. Now, this product, what it does, it basically takes and puts a piece of pipe, rigid pipe, into a coupling, basically by using a drill. So what this product is a cam lock system. Those little red rollers go inside the piece of a rigid pipe. And once it spins in a clockwise version, those little rollers turn and lock as a cam inside the pipe, and then the pipe starts to spin. So as long as I got one thread on the coupling, I could screw two pieces of rigid pipe together in a matter of seconds. Now, we only make these from 1.25 inches up to 6 inch, because typically, guys, 3/4 and 1 inch, you're going to spin with your hands. But where you're going to save a lot of money, if a guy's doing 4-inch rigid, I'm a big guy. I'm 6'3", almost 285 pounds. Excuse me. Back in the day, they would put me on all the heavy jobs, all the 3 and 4-inch rigid. You start out at 7 o'clock, 7:30 in the morning. Yeah, you're full of bravado, and you're going to get out there and you're going to do all this work. By lunchtime, your arms are beat, and eventually you're going to have arms like Popeye. So what you're using typically is chain straps. Most of the time, you can only do quarter turns or half turns with a chain strap. This thing, I'm going to put it on a drill and spin it and be done. And on here, we have a video that you can watch after the meeting's over, and you can see how they're doing it. But I'll save you guys a ton of labor units by using this product. And a 6 inch is no more than $200. So from a contractor standpoint, if he's using OCal, now you guys support T&B. Remember, every time you use OCal, it's PVC coated. You're typically going to use rags, and you're going to wrap it around the pipe. Then you're going to use your chain strap to tighten it. The problem is you put score marks in it. So now I got to buy paint, and I got to touch it up. With this, I never touch the outside. Everything's done internal, and I could screw two pieces of pipe together in a matter of seconds. On a 4-inch, I had a guy doing a job in New Jersey, and he saved so many labor units. He came back to me and said, Guy, he said, I couldn't believe it. We were starting to put two pieces together and then screwing 20 feet pieces across the roof deck of 4-inch OCal. And he said, I had in the job rated basically 5 days to run this 4-inch pipe across this roof deck. He said, I got it done in a day and a half. Saved him a ton of money. So again, innovative product, something we sell a lot of. Most guys, when they see this the first time, they're like, man, I never knew something. Now, I've seen guys out there try to make stuff themselves using a coupling and trying it, but it doesn't work like this. And again, most electricians are pretty innovative. I used to like to call ourselves MacGyver. We try to make things up to help us out. Excuse me. We make a polyfoam box insert. Basically, instead of taping up with duct tape for a concrete slab, you push this piece of foam in there. They pour the concrete, you pull it out, you wipe the concrete off the foam, and you reuse them. We say you can reuse them roughly 6 times on a job. So that saves you a ton of duct tape and all the goo and stuff that you get on top of a box from the tape and the glue. Never had that with our product. Again, our product, I could push that foam down and I could still get access to the knockouts. Once you tape up a box, you got to cut it with a knife to get into it. So we make some temporary panel covers. They're popular in certain areas of the country. This little guy right here. Oh, sorry, wrong one. This is our lockout panel bracket. Real easy to do lockout and tag out. These 2 pieces of metal clip around the outside of the door and basically put your lock in it, and it will support lockout and tag out. Let's see here. Here's our temporary covers. So basically this goes on the front of a live panel, keeps anybody's hands out of it. Now you have to ask the local code and your local jurisdiction if they're available and you're able to use them. OSHA out in California didn't like them because they were penetrable. And what happened was they had guys on a job site and they took those pneumatic nail guns and they were shooting nails through our product into a live panel. So OSHA said, nope, you got to use something. This is acrylic, so it's kind of like a cardboard style product. So, they were able to shoot a nail through it. So again, they can't use them in certain states, but we still got a lot of contractors that use them for temporary. Because again, if you're in a room, if you don't have this, you're gonna have to put the cover back on just to go take a piss. So again, it's a huge savings being able to use this, and it's basically magnetized, and the magnets that are used on there are non-conductive. So it just slaps right onto the can of a panel board. Makes it real easy. We're getting done here in 1 second, guys. And again, we make the benders. We've been selling this product for a number of years. This is a propane style, no power needed. So you basically use the propane tank like you would on your grill outside, and it basically has got this guard, and it keeps the flame away from the pipe at a certain distance, so it doesn't make any change or degradation to the color of the pipe, but it heats it up real nice, and it makes you be able to bend pipe in the field PVC very easily. And that's it. So I just want to thank everybody for their time today. Again, we went through a bunch of different products. Again, I'm always here for technical support. As you can see, I know the product very well. I could talk to the contractors, give them information on labor units, where it's been used, how you could use it, and how ultimately they could save money by using our product. And again, you can always sell this on military bases because we are Buy American and use domestic grade steel. So it goes a very long way. Thank you very much for your time, and we look forward to working with you and earning your business.
Thanks, Gary.
Awesome, Gary. Man, that was good.
Yeah, a lot of